Why do we age? The science behind growing old. There is a candle burning inside every cell in your body right now, and it has been burning since before you were born. You didn't light it. You can't blow it out. And for most of human history, nobody could tell you why it burns down at all, only that it does, quietly, every single day, until one day it doesn't anymore. That candle has a name. Scientists call it aging. And for thousands of years, it was the one mystery no philosopher, no priest, no king could buy their way out of. Pharaohs were mummified believing they'd wake up young again. Alchemists spent lifetimes hunting a potion that never existed. Ponce de Leon allegedly searched an entire continent for a fountain that was never there. They were all asking the right question. They just didn't have the tools to answer it. We do now. And the answer is stranger, and somehow more hopeful, than anything they imagined. The question hiding in plain sight. Here's a strange fact to sit with: aging is not, technically, necessary. Some creatures don't do it the way we do. Lobsters keep growing, keep reproducing, keep repairing their DNA with an enzyme called telomerase. For as long as they're not eaten or diseased, some may live 100 years without much decline at all. A creature called the immortal jellyfish can, under stress, revert its cells back to an infant state and start life over. Certain clams have lived past 400 years. Somewhere in the Nevada desert, a bristlecone pine has been alive since before the pyramids were finished. So if life can avoid the wear and tear of time, why don't we? The honest answer is unsettling: evolution was never trying to keep you young. It was only ever trying to get your genes into the next generation. Once you've done that, once you've raised your children long enough for them to survive, nature stops caring. There was no evolutionary pressure to keep a body running smoothly for 90 years, because for most of human history, almost nobody lived that long anyway. You were built to last exactly long enough to pass yourself on. Everything after that is, biologically speaking, overtime. The body's slow motion unraveling. So what actually happens, cell by cell, as the years pass? Picture your DNA as an enormous instruction manual, one copy stored in the nucleus of nearly every cell in your body. Every time a cell divides, that manual gets copied. And every copy is a little worse than the last. At the very ends of your chromosomes sit small protective caps called telomeres. Think of them like the plastic tips on the end of a shoelace, stopping the string from fraying. Every time a cell divides, those caps shorten just slightly. Divide enough times, and the caps wear down to almost nothing. When that happens, the cell doesn't just get old and tired. It stops dividing altogether. Scientists call this state senescence, and it's one of the strangest villains in the whole story. A senescent cell doesn't die. It just sits there. And it starts leaking chemical signals that inflame the tissue around it, slowly poisoning its neighbors. Your body was supposed to clear these cells out through routine cleanup. But as you age, that cleanup crew slows down too, and senescent cells pile up like litter nobody's collecting anymore. Researchers now believe this buildup is one of the true engines behind wrinkled skin, stiffening joints, and the general fog of getting older. Then there's damage, the kind your cells accumulate just by doing their job. Every cell in your body is, quite literally, burning fuel to keep you alive, and that process produces byproducts called free radicals, unstable molecules that go around chemically vandalizing everything they touch: your DNA, your proteins, the membranes holding your cells together. Your body has repair systems for this, but those systems were never built to run flawlessly forever. Mistakes creep in. Mutations accumulate. And over decades, tiny errors compound into something you can see in the mirror. Even the powerhouses inside your cells, the mitochondria, wear down. In youth, they hum along, converting food and oxygen into usable energy with remarkable efficiency. With age, they get sluggish, leakier, less productive. Less cellular energy means slower repair, slower healing, slower everything. It's less like a single machine breaking, and more like an entire city's infrastructure aging at once: the roads, the power grid, the water lines, all degrading together, each failure making the others worse. This is the sobering part of the science: aging isn't one villain you can defeat. It's dozens of small systems, all quietly failing at slightly different rates, all tangled together. The clock inside the clock. But here's where it gets genuinely eerie. Aging doesn't just happen to your body, it's written into it, like a program with a schedule. Every cell carries chemical marks on top of its DNA, tiny switches that turn genes on and off without changing the DNA sequence itself. This layer is called the epigenome, and it changes in shockingly predictable ways as you get older. In fact, scientists can now look at a small sample of your cells, examine these chemical marks, and estimate your age to within a couple of years, sometimes closer. It's been nicknamed the epigenetic clock, and it doesn't just tell your age. In some experiments, it can predict how fast someone is aging biologically, regardless of what the calendar says. And this is where the story takes its most astonishing turn. In 2012, a scientist named Shinya Yamanaka won a Nobel Prize for a discovery that sounds almost like science fiction. He found that by switching on just 4 specific genes, you could take a fully mature, specialized adult cell, skin, blood, whatever, and reset it all the way back to an embryonic-like state. A blank slate, young again, biologically speaking, from the inside out. For years, this was mostly a laboratory curiosity. Then researchers tried something bolder. What if you didn't fully reset the cell, but just nudged it partway, enough to erase the wear of age, without erasing what the cell actually was? In mice, this partial reprogramming has restored vision in animals with age-related blindness, rejuvenated damaged tissue, and in some studies, extended lifespan. It's early, it's messy. It's nowhere near ready for humans in any reliable, safe way. But it suggests something that would have sounded like fantasy a generation ago: aging might not be a one-way street. It might be a setting. And settings, in theory, can be adjusted. Why some people seem to defy the clock. If you've ever met someone who's 70 but has the energy of someone 20 years younger, you've witnessed something science is only starting to explain. Pockets of the world, Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, have unusually high numbers of people living past 100, with a striking amount of vitality along the way. Researchers who study these regions have spent decades trying to bottle whatever they're doing right. And the findings aren't exotic. They're almost disappointingly simple. They move constantly throughout the day rather than exercising in bursts, they eat mostly plants, they maintain close social ties, they carry a sense of purpose well into old age, and, crucially, chronic stress seems far less present in their daily lives. None of that sounds like a miracle. It sounds like maintenance. And maybe that's the point: the body that gets the least neglect ages the slowest. There's also a genetic side to the story that has nothing to do with lifestyle at all. Some people are simply dealt a better hand: variants in genes tied to cholesterol processing, DNA repair, or inflammation control that quietly protect them for decades. Scientists studying supercentenarians, people living past 110, keep finding these fortunate mutations, hints that biology occasionally hands out a longer fuse almost at random. The race to slow the candle. Right now, in labs across the world, a strange kind of gold rush is underway. Not for eternal life, almost nobody serious is chasing that, but for something more modest and, frankly, more believable: adding healthy years, not just years. There's a class of drugs called senolytics, designed to specifically hunt down and clear out those zombie-like senescent cells that clutter aging tissue. In animal studies, clearing them out has extended both lifespan and, more importantly, health span, the years spent actually feeling well, not just alive. There's rapamycin, a drug originally used to prevent organ transplant rejection, which appears to slow aging in nearly every organism it's been tested on, from yeast to worms to mice. There's metformin, a decades-old diabetes medication now being studied for its possible effects on aging itself, in a landmark trial trying to answer a question that would have sounded absurd not long ago: can a pill slow down time? And there's the quieter, less flashy discovery that keeps showing up in study after study, however unglamorous it sounds: caloric restriction. Simply eating somewhat less than you naturally would, extends lifespan in nearly every species tested, sometimes dramatically. Nobody fully understands why. The leading theory is almost poetic: when the body senses scarcity, it seems to shift from growth mode into repair mode, as if survival itself becomes the priority the moment resources get tight. So why do we age? Strip away all the biology, all the mitochondria and telomeres and senescent cells, and the honest answer is this: we age because nothing built us to do otherwise. Evolution handed us bodies engineered for reproduction, not longevity, and every crack that appears with time is simply the bill coming due on a machine that was never designed to run forever. But here's the part worth sitting with. For the entire span of human history, that bill was simply accepted. Death by old age felt as fixed and unchangeable as the tides. Nobody thought to question the mechanism, because nobody could see it. Now we can. We can watch senescent cells poison their neighbors under a microscope. We can read a person's biological age off a chemical signature. We can partially rewind a cell's clock in a petri dish. None of this means aging is close to solved, it very much isn't, and anyone promising otherwise is selling something. But for the first time, aging has stopped being a mystery and started being a mechanism. And mechanisms, unlike mysteries, can eventually be understood well enough to change. That candle is still burning. It's burning in you right now, exactly as it has since the day you were born. But for the first time, we're not just watching it flicker in the dark, wondering why. We're finally starting to see the wax.